The Paleogene period spans the interval from 66 to 23 million years ago. The Paleogene is further subdivided into the Paleocene, Eocene, and Oligocene epochs. At the dawn of the Paleogene, the beginning of the Cenozoic era, dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and giant marine reptiles were conspicuously absent from the face of the Earth. Rodent-size and perhaps larger mammals emerged, suddenly free to fill the void. Over the next 42 million years, they grew in size, number, and diversity. The extinction of the large reptiles gave other animals the chance to evolve. The latter part of the period was dominated by mammals, and most of the mammalian groups were already thriving by the Eocene epoch. Our journey will introduce you to iconic creatures such as the fearsome Andrewsarchus, as well as the majestic Ambulocetus, an early whale ancestor that navigated both land and water, other fascinating animals that once roamed our planet during the Paleogene period. Ambulocetus. Like hippos, their closest living relatives, whales are descended from an ancestor that had 4 legs and walked on land. Ambulocetus natans lived about 49 million years ago in what is now northern Pakistan, in long-lost coastal shallow seas and brackish rivers. It was large, about 10 feet long, and had strong limbs. The animal probably could not walk well on land. After all, it had squat legs that splayed from its body, flipper-like hind feet, and it weighed about 300 pounds. On land, it probably waddled and pulled its body with its forelimbs, a bit like sea lions do. In the water, Ambulocetus swam like a sea otter, using its gigantic, probably webbed, hind feet. What features can be seen in the skull of Ambulocetus indicate that it could hear underwater sound. The lower jaw has a large cavity, which in modern toothed whales houses an extensive pad of fat. This pad of fat channels sound from the lower jaw to the ear, a system that works well in modern toothed whales. The eyes of Ambulocetus were placed high on the head and partially looked upwards, or forward if the chin is depressed. A similar position occurs in the hippopotamus and suggests that this early whale swan submerged, except for its eyes. If Ambulocetus walked on the bottom of rivers and lakes, then the upward-facing eyes could have helped it locate prey swimming above. The tall, sharp molars of the Ambulocetus suggest that it ate fish and/or other animals that strayed into the water. The large space for the temporalis muscle, which closes the mouth, indicates that it had a very powerful bite. Basilosaurus. If you thought that Tyrannosaurus rex was the king of all prehistoric creatures, you may be surprised to hear of another reigning king that lived in the oceans. Basilosaurus, or the king lizard, was a prehistoric whale that dominated the sea. Weighing up to 10 tons, the Basilosaurus lived after the dinosaurs had gone extinct and mammals started to develop in greater numbers. There were 2 species, Basilosaurus setoides and Basilosaurus isis. Both were between 44 and 66 feet long, although B. isis were often on the shorter end of that range. Basilosaurus belongs to the Artiodactyla order, along with other mammals with an even number of toes. While they did not have toes, they were descended from land creatures, which is why they are included in that order. While they were quite large, these whales had small brains. Scientists believe that this shows that they were incapable of herd movement or even echolocation. They did have complex ear structures, although not all aspects were useful during their lives underwater. These whales had marrow-filled vertebra and bones, which helped them stay near the surface of water as they swam. Their teeth show signs of wear. This indicates that Basilosaurus chewed their food before eating it. The oldest evidence of the Basilosaurus dates to around 33.9 million years ago. A large-scale event that heralded the end of the Eocene epoch likely impacted the Basilosaurus, like many of the other species that went extinct during that time period. This extinction event may have been something significant, like a meteor, based on evidence of impact zones. Other hypotheses point to gradual cooling that changed the available food sources for all animals, which eventually led to the extinction of many species, including Basilosaurus. Hyracotherium, Eohippus. Eohippus, also known as Hyracotherium, is an interesting prehistoric animal that holds a significant place in the evolutionary history of horses. Eohippus was a small animal, about the size of a small dog or fox. It stood around 12 to 20 inches or 30 to 50 centimeters tall at the shoulder. It had a relatively short body with slender legs and a relatively long tail. Eohippus lived during the Eocene epoch, which was part of the Paleogene Period, approximately 56 to 34 million years ago. It inhabited the dense forests and wooded areas of North America and Europe. Eohippus was an herbivore, primarily feeding on soft plant material like leaves and fruits. Its teeth were adapted for grinding plant matter. One of the distinctive features of Eohippus was its toe configuration. It had 4 toes on its front feet and 3 toes on its hind feet. These toes were equipped with small hooves. This is quite different from modern horses, which have a single hoofed toe on each foot. The structure of Eohippus's limbs and feet suggested that it was a capable climber. This ability would have been useful for navigating trees and other vegetation in its forested habitat. Eohippus is considered an important ancestor in the evolutionary lineage leading to modern horses. Over millions of years, the number of toes on each foot gradually reduced through the process of natural selection. This adaptation provided better speed and balance, which were advantageous for open grassland environments. Andrewsarchus. Andrewsarchus was a large carnivorous mammal, estimated to have been as tall as a horse. If its estimated skull size is correct, it would be the largest known carnivorous mammal ever discovered. Andrewsarchus was about 6 feet 6 inches tall and 16 feet long. It weighed about 2,204 pounds. This is quite massive, considering the fact that modern brown bears weigh roughly 1,400 pounds on average. This prehistoric animal had a massive skull that was nearly as long as 32.8 inches. It also had a long snout with sharp, large and flat teeth that must have been used to crush bones. It had 1 canine, 3 incisors, 4 premolars, and 3 molars at each side of the jaw. Andrewsarchus lived during the Middle Eocene in an area in present-day Inner Mongolia, China. This was about 40 to 35 million years ago. The Eocene period was the warmest during the Cenozoic, characterized by subtropical and temperate forests. The fossil was found in a coastal area, indicating that it lived and hunted there. Can Chuen Pao was the person who actually discovered Andrewsarchus in the Erdene Manha Formation in Mongolia on the 1923 expedition led by Andrews. The single skull bone is the only fossil of this animal found to date. This is why so little is known about the prehistoric carnivore. Andrewsarchus likely died out during the Eocene epoch about 36 million years ago. The exact cause of its disappearance isn't known, but it was probably connected to changing climatic conditions. Experts think its population declined steadily until they all died out eventually. Diatryma. Diatryma, also known Asgastornis is a fascinating prehistoric creature that inhabited various parts of the world, including North America, Europe, and Asia, during the Paleocene and Eocene epochs, approximately 56 to 34 million years ago. It was a large flightless bird, standing around 6 to 7 feet, or 1.8 to 2.1 meters tall, and weighing several hundred pounds. It had a robust build, with a long neck and powerful legs. Its head was large, featuring a powerful beak. While its diet was once debated, it is now generally believed that Diatryma was a carnivorous bird. Its beak was strong and hooked, suggesting it could have been a predator that hunted small mammals, reptiles, and other animals. Diatryma was flightless, with its wings having evolved into small, stubby structures that were not capable of supporting flight. This adaptation might have been due to the absence of predators in its environment. The extinction of Diatryma is thought to be linked to climatic changes and shifts in ecosystems. As the environment transformed, the available food sources and habitats might have dwindled, contributing to the decline and eventual extinction of these birds. Chalicotherium. Chalicotherium lived during the Miocene epoch, which spanned from approximately 23 to 5.3 million years ago, and it inhabited various parts of Africa, Europe, Asia, and North America. It was a large herbivorous mammal that resembled a combination of different animals. Chalicotherium had a bulky body, a long neck, and a relatively small head. Its most distinctive feature was its long curved claws on its front limbs. It stood around 6 to 9 feet or 1.8 to 2.7 meters tall at the shoulder. One of the most distinctive features of Chalicotherium was its long, curved claws on its front limbs. These claws were used for various purposes, such as stripping leaves from trees, digging for roots, and possibly for self-defense. Fossil evidence suggests that Chalicotherium might have lived in small family groups. Such social behavior could have aided in protection from predators and cooperation in foraging. Chalicotherium belonged to a group of mammals known as Chalicotheres. This group is related to modern-day horses and rhinoceroses. Chalicotherium and other Chalicotheres eventually went extinct, likely due to a combination of factors, including changes in climate, habitat, and competition with other herbivores. Thylacosmilus. Thylacosmilus is a genus of saber-toothed mammals that once lived in South America during the late Miocene and Pliocene epochs. Like the saber-toothed cats of North America, this animal had prominent upper canines that grew out of its mouth. Interestingly, it was not related to the saber-toothed cats. In fact, it wasn't a cat at all. Instead, this predator was more related to marsupials or pouched mammals, such as kangaroos and wombats. Scientists think they weighed between 180 and 260 pounds, or 80 to 120 kilograms. Based on this estimate, this carnivore was probably around the same size as present-day jaguars, and is among the largest carnivorous marsupials ever found. It was about 2 feet tall and 4 feet long. The most prominent feature of their enormous head was the long, slender, saber-like canines. The canines were covered with enamel, as thick as 0.25 millimeters. Little information about its incisors and other teeth is available because of poor fossilization. However, we know that animals that tend to develop large saber-like teeth often have some missing or reduced teeth as well. Unlike the North American Smilodon, Thylacosmilus had flanges on its lower jaws, which protected the canines when their mouth was closed. While competition probably contributed to the decline of this genus of marsupial carnivores, it didn't include competition with the saber-toothed cats. Still, this doesn't rule out the competition with other species as a possible cause of their extinction. Climate change was probably the biggest factor that led to their decline. Moeritherium. Moeritherium was relatively small compared to modern-day elephants. It was about the size of a tapir, with a length of around 6 to 8 feet or 1.8 to 2.4 meters, and a height of about 3 feet or 1 meter at the shoulder. It had a short, sturdy body, a relatively long and flexible trunk, and a tail that was likely quite short. Moeritherium inhabited a watery environment, living in shallow rivers, swamps, and lagoons. Its body structure and limb adaptations suggest that it was well adapted to both wading in water and moving on land. One of the most distinctive features of Moeritherium was its trunk. Unlike the elongated trunks of modern elephants, Moeritherium's trunk was shorter and likely less dexterous. Moeritherium lived during the Eocene epoch, which was a period of time characterized by warm climates and the diversification of many different types of mammals, including early forms of whales, horses, and primates. It is believed to be one of the earliest known members of the Proboscidea order, which includes elephants, mammoths, and their relatives. Moeritherium is considered an intermediate form between land-dwelling mammals and the fully aquatic lifestyle seen in some later relatives, like modern-day manatees and dugongs. Changes in the environment and shifts in ecosystems, along with competition with other animals, might have contributed to its decline and disappearance. Entelodon. Entelodons, often referred to as Terminator pigs or Hell pigs, were a family of prehistoric omnivorous mammals. They lived during the Eocene and Oligocene epochs, approximately 38 to 16 million years ago. Hell pigs belonged to the extinct family Entelodonta and order Artiodactyla. Entelodonts first appeared in Asia and subsequently spread their fossils across Europe and North America. Over time, these creatures evolved, growing larger and adapting to various ecological niches. Entelodonts were large and bulky creatures. Some species could measure up to 2.1 meters, or 7 feet in length, and 1.8 meters, 6 feet in height at the shoulder. However, the size of entelodonts varied across different genera and species, with some being smaller than their larger counterparts. These prehistoric mammals possessed long, curved tusks that protruded from their lower jaw. These tusks were likely used for various purposes, such as fighting, digging for food, or displaying dominance. Entelodonts also had sharp teeth, which were well suited for slicing through flesh, grinding plant material. Fights between entelodonts could have involved displays of dominance. Individuals would likely have used their tusks and flanges to assert their position within the social hierarchy. They probably also fought to secure access to food and mating opportunities. Although the social structure of entelodonts is not well understood, it is possible that they lived in small groups or family units. This social structure could have provided protection from predators and facilitated cooperation in securing food sources. Leptictidium. Leptictidium was a small, agile mammal representing a cross between a squirrel and a kangaroo. It measured about 8 to 12 inches or 20 to 30 centimeters in length, excluding its tail. Its long, slender body and strong hind legs were adaptations for swift running and jumping. Leptictidium lived during the late Paleocene and early Eocene epochs, approximately 55 to 45 million years ago. It was part of the diverse mammalian fauna that emerged after the extinction of the dinosaurs. It was well adapted for rapid and agile movement. Its hind limbs were much longer and stronger than its forelimbs, suggesting that it was a specialized bipedal runner. Its ability to hop and jump likely helped it navigate its environment efficiently. While Leptictidium's exact diet is not fully understood, its teeth and skeletal features suggest that it had a varied diet. It might have fed on insects, small vertebrates, fruit, and plant material. Fossils of Leptictidium have provided valuable insights into the evolution of mammals after the mass extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs. They showcase the diversity of forms that arose during the early stages of mammalian radiation. Arsinoitherium. Arsinoitherium was a twin-horned mammal that looked like a rhino, but is more closely related to present-day elephants. This exact genus lived in Africa and on the Arabian Peninsula between the late Eocene and Middle Oligocene periods, between 45 to 24 million years ago. The Arsinoitherium reached lengths of up to 3.5 meters or 11 feet. They stood at about 1.7 meters or 5.7 feet tall at the shoulders. The bone structure of Arsinoitherium is quite similar to that of elephants. They had elephant-like hips, feet, and skulls. Their twin horns, which could grow up to 2.5 feet in length, were hollow and made of a bony material like that of modern cows. The horns probably had a keratin sheet, which would have protected them from fracturing. Both males and females had horns, but some experts have theorized that they exhibited sexual dimorphism in terms of size. Arsinoitherium was a browsing herbivore. However, judging from the specialized tooth design and jaw muscles, paleontologists think it had a selective diet. It may have eaten bulky fruits and grasses that were abundant in the Phaeanum Oasis site in Egypt, where it was found. Drastic changes in climate conditions during the late Eocene led to a disruption of Arsinoitherium's habitat. Arsinoitherium became extinct about 27 million years ago. Like most of the other large mammals that lived at the time, scientists have theorized that climate change was the major cause of their extinction. Paraceratherium. Paraceratherium, also known as Hyracotherium, holds the title of being one of the largest terrestrial mammals that ever existed. It lived during the Oligocene and Miocene epochs, approximately 24 to 33 million years ago. It stood around 18 feet or 5.5 meters tall at the shoulder and could reach lengths of up to 26 feet or 8 meters. Its massive size makes even modern elephants look small in comparison. Fossils of Hyracotherium have been found primarily in Asia, including regions that are now modern-day Pakistan, Mongolia, and China. Paraceratherium had a long neck similar to that of a giraffe. This adaptation likely helped it reach vegetation high up in trees, allowing it to feed on leaves and other plant material. Despite its name, Hyracotherium was not closely related to modern rhinoceroses. It belonged to a group of prehistoric mammals called the Hyracodontid. Its body was stout and rhino-like, and it had thick legs to support its immense weight. Hyracotherium shared its prehistoric world with a diverse range of mammals, including predators and other herbivores. These animals interacted within their ecosystems, shaping the dynamics of ancient habitats. Dorudon. Dorudon atrox is known from the famous Valley of the Whales locality in Egypt, indicating that it inhabited the ancient Tetrias Sea, which used to connect the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean. Dorudon atrox is estimated to have been around 5 meters in length, or approximately 16 feet as an adult, similar in size to the modern beluga. Dorudon has a long, narrow snout, and almost certainly lacked the bulbous melon that forms the spherical bulge on the facial profile of modern toothed whales. The teeth of Dorudon are still heterodont, or teeth in different parts of the mouth look different, and can be identified as incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Modern toothed whales have largely homodont teeth. All teeth in the mouth are similar in shape, and an individual tooth cannot be identified to a specific tooth type. Because Dorudon has a very large hole or foramen in the lower jaw like modern toothed whales, it is likely that Dorudon was able to hear underwater in a similar manner. Additionally, the jaw adjacent to this hole is very thin, suggesting that sound waves could travel through the bone, and then a fat pad, which channeled sound waves into the bony middle and inner ears. Dorudon is one of a few fossil cetaceans for which undigested fossilized stomach contents have been found. The bones of 2 fish were found within the ribcage of a Dorudon skeleton, suggesting that this species fed on fish. Given the large space in the skull for the temporalis muscle, which closes the jaw, and the thickness of the incisors of Dorudon, it is possible that this whale fed on smaller marine mammals as well.